Okay, welcome to the PWHG podcast, a show dedicated to helping hockey families navigate the journey of off-ice training and preparation. I'm Dr. Zach Rourke, founder of PWHG, and I'm here to answer your questions and provide actionable tips to help you reach your potential. Each episode is bite-sized. We're shooting for around 10 minutes and packed with information that you can start using today. As always, if you have a question that you want answered, reach out to us via Instagram at PWHTMN. On today's episode, we're going to talk about lifting weights in season. Should you be lifting weights in season? Shouldn't you? What should you be doing if you are lifting weights? How do you make that decision? I get this question from my athletes all the time. Obviously hockey players are always trying to make sure that they do everything in their power to get the most out of their bodies and their performance. After today's episode, you're going to know whether or not you should be lifting weights during your in-season, and then what you should be doing if you are lifting weights. So here's the tip right from the jump. Don't think of lifting weights as separate from everything else that you do when you're preparing for and competing during your season. Think of it as a potential part of what you do. So let me explain here. The in-season goal, and if you've been listening to this podcast for this kind of in-season series, where you know I'm going to go is I'm going to go to make sure that you're balancing your exposures. So quick review is, the golden rule is you get 8 to 10 exposures in a week and you get 2 in a day. So an exposure is a practice, it's a game, it's a workout, it's a conditioning session. It's any time that you're getting together and you're actively trying to improve your performance on the ice, right? So when it comes to your strength training, should you be lifting weights in the in-season? What you have to do first is you have to check and see what your exposure rate is. So if you're already at 10 exposures in your week, then I would say don't lift weights, okay? And then if you have some wiggle room, you're at 6 exposures in your week, okay, now we can start talking about lifting weights. But before we get into that, so we talked about maintaining explosivity, we talked about maintaining conditioning, and what I would suggest is that you look at like a priority list of what should I be attending to in the in-season. And during the in-season, the highest priority is obviously your games. So that's going to be, obviously that's going to take up some of your exposures. After that, your next highest priority is your practices, okay? So your games and your practices, they already eat up as much of your schedule as they eat up. And then after that, we talked about sport-specific conditioning. That's the next most important thing. The last or the lowest priority is going to be your lifting weights in season, okay? So what you would want to do is you look at your whole list of what you're doing in your week, you look at your 8 to 10 exposures, you fill in your games, you fill in your practices, then you fill in your conditioning, and then the last thing that you're going to fill in is your strength, which means that lifting weights in season is going to get cut pretty frequently. And that's okay. And if you're a Minnesota high school hockey player, I'm telling you right now, it's okay to cut your strength training pretty significantly in season, because the alternative is I already have a full list of things that I'm trying to do, and I add on strength training, and so now I'm overdoing it. And if you overdo it anywhere, it takes away from everything, okay? So it's not an advantage to do more than you can, right? And so why is strength training the lowest on the priority list? It's because it's the least specific thing that you can do in season. The most specific is play games. The second most specific is practice. And then the third most specific is condition, especially if you can condition on the ice in the way that we talked about in the conditioning podcast. The least specific thing that you can do in season to help your game is go and lift weights in the gym. Okay? Now, there's definitely a time and a place. Like I said, if you have it in your schedule in season, that's a good time and place. More of like the best time and place is in the off season. That's when you really want to be spending your time, or at least more of your time in the gym. Okay. So the first thing is make sure that you have room for it. Now, if you do have room, so let's assume that when you look at games, practices, and conditioning exposures, you still have 2 exposures left. Great. What does a workout look like? Okay, they're different than in-season workouts. I don't want you grinding at the gym for an hour. That's not going to be helpful. The type of training that we're going to do in season is supposed to be a maintenance training load. So you're not going to go in and do 4 sets of 12 exercises, right? Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to pick 3 to 4 of the most sport specific and biggest, let's say, biggest exercises that you got. Types of exercises that I like to choose. I like to choose sport-specific sled pushes. I like to choose sport-specific lunge variations. I like to choose something for the posterior chain, which means your glutes and your hamstrings and your hips. That could be a single leg RDL. That could be a double leg RDL. That could be a glute ham hip extension, that kind of thing. I might put in like a push-up and a pull-up for upper body. Maybe I'd do that as a supplementary exercise, which I'll talk about here in a second. But you choose 3 to 4 of your biggest, baddest, most sport-specific exercises, and those are all probably going to be lower body exercises. And then with those 3 to 4 exercises, you're going to pair one exercise with them. And you could pair an upper body push and an upper body pull, and then you could pair a core exercise, and then you could pair, I would suggest like a PT rehab type of glute exercise, bridges, clamshells, something like that. Something to just make sure that your glutes are firing, okay? Okay, so that's kind of your structure. So you have like 6 to 8 exercises. You'll do 2 exercises at a time, and then you're only going to do 2 sets. So for your big, bad exercises, your sled pushes, your lunges, your RDLs, you're going to do 2 sets of 6 to 8 reps. And you're going to use a weight that's moderately challenging, right? But it's not like your PR, okay? 2 sets of 6 to 8. And then for your secondary exercise, for your upper body push and your upper body pull, you're going to go 2 sets of 6 to 10 reps. And then for anything that's like a core exercise, a glute hip exercise, a shoulder girdle exercise, you're going to do 2 sets of 8 to 12, okay? Super simple. These workouts shouldn't take more than like 30 minutes. And the goal is maintenance, right? Okay, so that's kind of the general guidelines. Remember, you want to prioritize games, prioritize practice, prioritize conditioning over lifting weights in the in-season, okay? The last thing that you're going to add into your tool belt is going to be your strength training. And if something needs to go, let it be your strength training, and that's okay. You're getting plenty of high intensity, high force, high load reps when you're on the ice, okay? So, and here's a fun fact. You can experience, so like if you're going to do a heavy squat, which obviously I wouldn't recommend, we don't squat any of our athletes, and you guys probably know that by now. If you're going to do a heavy squat, you could experience loads, like average high school hockey player might experience loads that are like 1.5 times, maybe twice their body weight in the gym. When you're on the ice, you're going to experience loads that are 6 to 10 times your body weight because of the speeds that you're moving at and the aggressive accelerations and decelerations. So if you think that you're not doing high force training, you are when you're on the ice. So that's why I say your strength training in the gym is your lowest priority. All right? That's what I have for you. Make sure that you follow that golden rule. Make sure that you I would say for most of you, it's going to mean that you actually strength train less. And if you get twice a week, 30 minutes, that is plenty, okay? All right, that's what I have for you today. If you're looking to learn more about how you can achieve your hockey goals, visit us at perfectworldhockey.com. While you're there, you'll find more podcast episodes, articles, and resources to support your hockey journey. If you're interested in taking your training to the next level, you can also schedule a consultation with us. We'd love to learn more about your goals and see how we can help with your off-ice development. Follow us on Instagram or YouTube at PWHTMN to join the conversation and connect with the PWHT family. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on the PWHT